Cops of Reddit, what is the best story you have about pulling someone over? My dad has a friend who is California highway patrolman. He says that during a traffic stop, it is fairly common for other motorists to pull over behind the CHP cruiser and ask for directions or something along those lines. So one night this guy has a car stopped and another car pulls over behind him. He heads over to the second car after he finishes ticketing the first car, and the conversation goes like this: "Cop, something I can help you with tonight?" "Dude, no thanks officer, just waiting for the light to change." It becomes quite apparent that this dude is drunk as shit, and thought the multicolored lights on the police cruiser was some sort of stoplight. Another one, late on a weeknight I found a van sitting on the side of a county road. The driver's side door was open and the driver was in the seat with his legs propped up sticking out of the window. I turned around and stalked behind him. The guy in the driver's seat was very drunk and passed completely out. He was not even aware I had showed up. I had to shake him to wake him up. When he came to, he looked at me for a second, straightened up in the seat, fixed his clothes a bit, closed the door, put on his seatbelt, leaned out the window and said, "Is there a problem, officer?" I was sitting at a red light at the end of my shift. The light turned green and I released the brake and started rolling. I saw a car on the cross street that was not slowing down for the red light. The guy blew the red light right in front of my marked unit. I made eye contact with the driver, who appeared terrified and was frantically stomping the brake as if there was a live poisonous snake under him. Apparently his brakes completely failed at that moment. Luckily, he didn't hit anyone and was able to make it over some railroad tracks past the intersection. I hit the lights and stopped him as his two passengers helped him come to a halt, Fred Flintstone style. We all had a relief laugh when it was over. I cut him a warning for defective equipment and reminded him that his car had a mechanical parking brake. In the panic he completely forgot about it. Just 2 nights ago I stopped a car I thought could be a drunk driver at 3 a.m. They were going 15 under in the fast lane and swerving. I hit my lights and they didn't notice. I hit the siren and they slammed on the brakes, all signs of DUI, and all of a sudden the two people in the car start making frantic movements like they are hiding things. When I get out they are still moving around and I pull my gun on them and command them to put their hands in the air. I work in a pretty dangerous city and I approached the vehicle. Turns out they were both half naked pleasuring each other and they were frantically trying to get their clothes on. When I stopped them, I still wrote them a ticket for careless driving since they were all over the road. While working as a flagman on a busy intersection, a cop pulled up in the turn lane and seemingly sat there without his blinker on. He waited. I looked at him curiously. He waited some more. So, unsure of his intentions, I didn't flag him through. After allowing numerous other cars through, he pulled up to me slowly, rolled down his window, and asked me if I was going to wave him through. Clearly agitated, I told him he didn't have his blinker on, so I was not sure of his intentions. He protested. I insisted. So, he got out of his squad car to look. His blinker was out. Ha! A rookie officer called out over the radio that he was going to check out a parked vehicle that had the alarm going off. As I went to back him up, he says over the radio that there are 2 naked women sleeping in the vehicle. We couldn't get them to wake up, but I quickly realized that the woman who had her ass up in the air and her face buried under the seat was actually a man. My sergeant could not contain his laughter and kept asking the rookie if he knew the differences between a man and a woman. We called EMS and gained entry into the vehicle by breaking the window. The 2 people in the vehicle were naked, drunk and covered in urine. I was also new at the time, so I tried really hard to keep it professional in front of my sergeant. But when the 2 people asked us to shine our flashlights into the car so that they can find their underwear, I couldn't contain my laughter. I came up with something to say when women showed skin. Madam, you would be completely embarrassed by trying that. If you had any idea of what my wife looks like, they would usually make a pouty face. My favorite is from my home state. Dashcam video of a stop and the girl in a whiny voice says something like, "But I thought cops didn't give pretty girls tickets." Cop responds, "You are absolutely right. Here is your ticket." My grandpa was a highway patrolman for years. One day he pulled over a girl for speeding, gave her a ticket and so on. That night he was at dinner with his family and overhears a conversation of a girl complaining to her friends some dick cop gave me a ticket, I was only going 15 over. He then turned around and goes, sorry honey, you were going 70 in a 45, don't bullshit. She then stopped talking and left. Not a cop, I am a dispatcher. One of my units pulled up to an apparent disabled motor vehicle. Just as he gets out of the car, one of the subjects exits the vehicle and runs across a busy interstate. A foot pursuit began and the driver of the disabled vehicle drove away. Madness ensued with officers from all departments in bordering towns showed up, as well as tracking dogs and multiple helicopters. The guy got surrounded in the woods 10 minutes later and arrested. The driver drove right up to the gaggle of police cars looking for the other party and was arrested as well. It turns out the running subject thought there was a warrant out for his arrest. There were none. I didn't get pulled over, but when I was in high school I was driving to a place that was 45 minutes away and I only knew one way to get there. One of the streets was torn up due to construction, but there was a small narrow paved area through the construction that a cop was blocking. I pulled up to the copy and told him I needed to get to a house down this street, so he said follow me. So he starts driving down this strip and I get behind and follow him. After we get past the construction he pulls off to the side and rolls down his window. So I pull up next to him. What the heck are you doing? You can't drive down there. You told me to follow you. I didn't mean literally follow me. I didn't get a ticket or anything, but what did he mean if not literally follow him? Spiritually, emotionally, it still confuses me to this day. My dad pulled over a guy on a bike for riding around a park naked during the pouring rain. His response: I was just enjoying nature. That sounds awesome. I got pulled over in full dress uniform with my girlfriend in the passenger seat on our way to a wedding. Long story short, we are in a pack of cars going about 80 in a 55. The speed limit had recently dropped from 65 and we are on I-95, so everyone drives around 80 regardless, and we pass a cop. It had been a long day, and she says the last thing we need is to get pulled over, so of course we get pulled over. Trooper marches up to the car, looks in at me in full dress, looks at the girl in a formal dress, looks back at me, and just sighs and says yeah, you are good, and marches back to his car. My time to shine. Scariest pullover. It was a cool, crisp weekend night. I work graveyard shift in a large city, so I am usually kept very busy, except this night was different, and so it was calm. I was just cruising around, not expected much. Then I see it, the small brown pickup swerving from left to right like a cheesy Nerf gun bullet. I stop the truck and approach the driver. He is frightened looking and statuesque. His knuckles are white from squeezing the steering wheel. His gaze is straight and unrelentingly forward. As I pursue a battery of questions relating to his sobriety, I realize he is not sober, nor is he aware I exist. I politely request that he remove himself from the vehicle, in which his no response was a refusal. I then demand it and get no response. His Nissan B model truck door rattles when I open it and the man doesn't stir. When I reached for his wrists to pull him ajar, he struggled briefly. All my strength was focused on his left hand just as his right hand went down to the seat. His dirty skinned arm returned into my sight too quick for me to retreat, and I stared. A millisecond, down at the syringe jammed into my forearm, and dangling in the breeze. This was a long millisecond, as it took me that long to divert all of my strength and adrenaline to removing him from his vehicle and proceeding to shatter his jaw with my fists during one of the shortest but craziest fights of my career. He had hepatitis C and HIV. I am disease-free 8 years after my rookie mistake of not checking his surrounding area visually. He managed, by my luck, to grab the only unused syringe among 5 sitting next to him. Yeah, lucky me. Weirdest moments, or should I say awkward. This happens sometimes, but ends the same way every time. Some women expose their breasts to get out of tickets. That is what this not-so-hot dirty blonde lady did one day in her Mercedes. She asked if I was gay when I didn't react. I said, "Madam, not only am I not gay, but you are bribing a police officer through sexual means. If I accept this bribe and do not write you a citation, I would have broken my oath as a law enforcement officer to hold everyone as equally accountable as another. I could very likely lose my job. You will also go to prison for bribing a law enforcement officer, so I will instead save us both the time and write you a citation as your actions have guaranteed yourself to earn. Also, my job means much more to me than your old breasts you have court on." She was pissed, complained on me, and my sergeant told her to shut the duck up. Funny, I pulled over Chewbacca on his way to a convention. It is illegal to drive with masks as it interferes with your perception of the road. It was funny seeing him drive opposite while I sat at the longest red light ever. I looked at him in awe, then turned to see if anyone else had witnessed this. My eyes were met by those of a middle-aged man in a Corvette next to me. We laughed real hard before I flipped a bitch and tracked him down harder than Boba Fett does. Chewie did not get a citation. Hardest mentally during the code run lights and sirens to an alarm call. I pass a car that is hovering among the lane divider lines. It was a white Toyota SUV. I thought they are drunk as I passed. I was cancelled before I went on site thanks to my swift backup, so I backtracked to find the SUV. It was now sitting among a ditch bank with the lights on. As I casually pull up and shine my million-candle-watt spot lamp in its direction, out jumps a woman in a nightgown. She disregards me and runs for a bridge on the river. I didn't notice at first, but as I gave chase and quickly caught up with her on the bridge, I see that she is holding rope. Among the rope is a poorly fashioned noose. In her feeble attempts to tie this rope to the bridge, I begin talking to her. I realize that she is completely sober, but during the course of our brief conversation she has shed enough tears to fill a beer mug. Her gown is now drenched in tears. I politely take the rope from her and throw it aside. Her only words to me before I hugged her tight were, "My husband is not coming home from Afghanistan." That was not a fun night. That is all I got for now. There is thousands of other awesome stories. Maybe you will hear some more sometime. Reddit. Edits are for iPhone spelling fixes. Thanks Apple. Switching to Samsung. I had this funny little pun I always wanted to crack when someone was speeding. So there I am, shooting with my laser and pulling over this guy in a Volvo. That was a bit fast. "May I see your pilot license?" So the guy in the Volvo responds, "Sure thing," and provides a pilot license. At that moment I decided to stop making that joke. But I let him go with a warning. "Everything seems to be in order. Drive a bit more careful from now on, will you?" Not a cop, but this happened to my dad's good friend who got pulled over, who is not a cop. Late at night my dad's friend George is driving north from Florida to go to Chicago. Pitch black, no cars around. Suddenly he sees the flashing red-blue lights and pulls over. The flashlight from the car is shining in his mirror, and as the cop approaches he keeps his flashlight in George's face. He can't see the cop's face at all. The first thing the cop says is, "Sir, step out of the car." George has this weird feeling something is not right and says, "Sure, no problem, but do you mind if I see a badge or something first?" The cop says, "Just get out of the goddamn car." George freaks out, hits the gas and books it, speeding to the nearest exit. The cop didn't come after him. Not a cop but a volunteer firefighter. I once was driving in my brother's car, so no emergency lights when I got paged out to a house fire. I fly past a cop and he comes after me. When he pulls me over he comes up to the window and says, "Where's the fire?" I took out my phone, showed him the text with the address and said, "Here." He let me go on my way. I will tell this story on behalf of the cop that pulled me over. It will be from my point of view. So back in high school a few of my buddies were at the beach trying to think of stuff to do after the sun went down. Well, we had this gorilla costume with us, always interesting to bring it out at random parties, and decided to jump out and chase people walking past the pier. It worked alright, but not too many people were out that night, so we decided to drive back to the house. On our way home we pass a police checkpoint on an adjacent road that led off the island. The cops at the checkpoint figure we are intentionally avoiding said checkpoint, and two cop cars proceed to quickly pull me over, one car in front of me and one behind me. A cop rushes to my driver's side rear door, opens it and is startled and confused as a gorilla hand flops out. The other cops are now shining their lights in the back of my car and find our other random stuff, including an absurdly large knife and a large net for catching the gorilla. The cop asked me what the heck was I doing with a gorilla costume, to which I replied, "Just monkeying around." He didn't find the weed, so he sent us on our way. very late to the party, but I have told this one a few times and it is always good for a laugh. I was on a stop in a pretty rural area just off the freeway off-ramp. My partner rolls up to back me up while I am finishing up the ticket for my contestant. So to visualize it, we are both stopped on the shoulder with our both cars' rear lights on. We notice a motorcyclist coming towards us on the shoulder, meandering straight toward the back of my partner's car. Just before the guy runs into the back of the patrol car, he barely comes to a stop, then in slow motion falls to his left, then rolls into the traffic lane like a big 300-pound roly-poly. My partner and I run over to him and he blurts out in the most slurred voice imaginable, "What are you guys doing stopped there? TL Doctor, do no pass go, do not collect 200. I was running radar and stopped this lady in a convertible for speeding. As soon as I walked up to her door, she apologized for speeding and said that her period had started and she was rushing to the store to buy some tampons. I was skeptical until she pulled up her skirt and I saw the blood stain. She was immediately sent on her way. I am not a cop, but I got pulled over because an old lady called the cops saying a 10-year-old is driving. In a past career, I was a park ranger for the county metro parks. In our county, rangers are fully sworn officers, so we were a police force, not just security guards. One fall night I was sitting in a parking lot just listening to the radio when a car pulls in. As usually happens, as soon as the headlights hit my cruiser, they slam on the brakes and three-point turn out of their number. Not at all suspicious. So, I watch the headlights go down the road and through the trees fall. Right. No leaves. I see them pull into another lot and park. I wait about 15 minutes. Then without turning my headlights on, go after them. I pull in the lot, then hit the car with my high beams and spotlight. All of a sudden a head pops up and the car wiggles. Okay, no big deal, just some kids. I approach the car and get the ids and all that, but while I am talking to them I can see a wet spot start spreading on top of this kid's thigh. Seems that he put his junk away a little soon and popped while I was talking to them. It was all I could do to keep a straight face and told them to get out of there. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.